we are, at least in the Western world, we're very good at making up stories and stories creating with your head. The stories I'm talking about, the stories you live, are the stories in your whole body. So you need to change the story with your whole body to be authentic, to be, well, etc., and to really change something.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Frédérique. Nice to have you
Hello.
here. This episode, we are with Frédérique. I'm not going to pronounce her full name because it's very Dutch and very long, as we were talking before entering the room. I'm just going to introduce her that Frédérique is a friend and a colleague. She's currently, her company is called Balanced Story, which is going to tell us more about. But let's say how I know Frédérique is a person of storytelling and of many other skills, but also working with archetypes and somehow supporting the balancing forces in the world. Uh, so very nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
to dive in with the first question is, what's your story, and how come you end up doing the work that you're doing?
Oh wow, that's immediately a heavy one, but okay. Um, what's my story? Well, my mother says that I've been born talking and telling stories, so that's where it starts already. Um, but for me, the start of my story work was at a really sad moment in my life. That's when my sister died of cancer at the age of, I always forget, 37, 38. Well, too young, too young. And well, during her illness, she asked me to create together with her a story. She wanted me to tell at her funeral, a story with the storyline that, well, although she wouldn't be here anymore in a physical sense, she still would be here with us, but certainly with her daughter, because the story was especially for her daughter at the age of 7 back then. She wasn't here in the physical sense, but she would stay here in a, well, in another form, let's say it like that. So we created a story mixed of all different stories from, for example, Big Bear, Mother Bear, and Little Bear, where Mother Bear became a star. But there was also a lot of sense of humor in this story, because my sister was, well, she was humor, she was jokes, she was everything like that. And what I remember when I told, it was the first time when I told this story, when I told a story anyway, in public. And what I remember of that moment was that there was well, a totally shift of energy in the room. Before that, there was, of course, the sadness and the grief. But after this story, there was also that positive feeling of, okay, we have the memories of her, we have the stories of her, we have, and through that she will stay alive. And when I felt, that was for me the first moment when I felt the power of stories and the power of storytelling. And that, of course, I'm still sad that my sister isn't among us anymore in a physical sense. But it also, well, she taught me that you can change any story at any moment in life. And that isn't easy, but it's possible. You can change the stories you tell yourself. So that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And at that same year, I also started my own company. And well, from there, I continued. Um, well, yeah, not. I'm a
And
storyteller, Christiana. I can
yeah,
continue just telling. So, just
yeah,
warning in
I really
advance.
I like that the power of stories to transform, but also that this is probably the most ancient way we were transferring knowledge, no? Like
exactly.
long before there was written text, there must have been stories in which people were telling the essence of what needs to continue to live. What do you think are the dominant stories that we're telling in our societies these days? And do you see any emerging stories from your perspective? What do you think
Hmm.
is going on?
Hmm. Um, yes, 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 yes. First of all, I always say that the storyteller is the oldest profession in the world, not that other one, but the storyteller. So storytelling is deep in our DNA. And back to your question, what kind of stories do I see in the world? What I always found important to realize is that our personal stories are, by definition, connected to the stories of the world. And for example, I see at this moment that the stories where our inner warrior is standing up are, well, coming more and more up in the world. And there, at the same time, you see also the danger of storytelling and using stories, um, because what I see in the world at this moment is the shadow side of this archetypal warrior stories. People are aggressive. There are, well, war. In a lot of countries where there's war, etc., etc., etc. And that's why I started the Fantastic Friday sessions to make people more aware of that archetypal energy, that story energy that is within us, because our inner warrior is very has also a positive side, a light side, and that is about, well, what is important for me and what do I stand for? What do I want to bring in the world?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not aware of that power of the story you're telling, there's a big chance that the shadow side of this archetype is taking over the story. And that's exactly what you see happening in the world right now, with all the polarization, with all the
Mm.
aggression, with all the, well, well, I'll stop here. And what I'm not sure if I see it emerging already, but I'm not sure if that's hope from me or if I see it emerging already. But there's always, um, stories want to be in balance. That's why I called my company Balanced Story.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment in the world the stories are going too much to one side, in this case, in this example, the shadow side of the archetypal warrior stories, then there's also always an energy going to the other side, to the light side, that people start more and more telling the stories they find important, the
Mm-hmm.
stories they are proud of, they stand for, etc., etc. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
an example of that too with my Fantastic Friday sessions,
Mm-hmm.
to make people aware of the archetypes that are living within themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, do I understand correctly that this warrior energy, warrior story is like more about either me or you? Like that one needs to be cancelled. It's almost like a cancel culture, and
Yeah,
that
that's the
leads
shadow
to.
side. That's the shadow
Mhm,
side of the warrior.
mhm,
That the one that polarizes, the one that, oh, you're not right, that. Um, but it's also that the moment that around me a lot of warrior stories are told,
mhm,
big chance that my inner warrior stands up too, and I start telling warrior stories too.
mhm,
So we
mhm.
are the energy is cumulating. Is that the right English word?
Yeah, or more
Is
contagious.
is contagious.
Yeah.
It makes it more and more and more. Certainly with the archetypal warrior, but for example, if we start telling love stories more
Mhm,
and more, the world will change too, and
mhm.
change into, well, more love stories and sharing more love stories.
Yeah,
So here again is the power of storytelling, and
yeah.
well, yeah, it's a danger, and it's a great powerful, well, way of looking at the world.
Yeah, and I'm reading now one book that they're speaking about worlding the world. That
Hmm.
by with your words, you're also creating the
Exactly.
world. What you were saying about love, etc. But what would be the opposition of this warrior? Is it like a weaver, someone who connects stories, like that you're standing up for your own story, and so it's like a yes and? Is this the
Hmm.
opposition? Uh huh.
Yes, that can be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, when you work with archetypes, I always say, um, well, if you mention one archetype, immediately that coming along, a lot of other archetypes are coming
Mm-hmm.
with them. In this case, the warrior, I immediately entered the lover or the weaver, or they
Mm-hmm.
all come together and they form a bond. Um, and on the other hand, um, archetypes can also exclude other archetypes. So that's, well, it's like a, well, to make it simple, I often explain it as it is a family, but there's a but, because archetypes aren't only persons. It can also be tools or places or things or animals or,
Mm-hmm.
well, whatever.
Yeah.
There's always a symbolic, deep, primal energy in, well,
Uh-huh.
whatever.
It's really cool that they can cluster kind of with each other. Um, but then what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that stories can also be deconstructed so that you can also collectively deconstruct a certain story. For example, in this book that I'm reading now, she's speaking about modernity, about hospicing
Hmm.
modernity, and that modernity that was like once pursued and seen as so, here you can cluster with development and civilization, and that's now seemingly that it's not working. Do you see, I mean, I already asked you about stories that are dying, but do you see
Hmm.
something that's dying, like a story that's being deconstructed in society?
Well, the first thing that comes up at this moment are the peace stories that are kind of dying, and it makes me sad. On the other hand, I also believe that um, I we lived a peace story for, well, at least in Europe, for, what is it, 75, 80 years, but that wasn't a peace story for everybody, because people, well, some people weren't happy, otherwise they wouldn't have brought in those warrior stories at this moment. So when a story dies, it means that um, we have overlooked something in the past years, something that was important, something that need to be mentioned, something that we need to give words to, we need to take action on, etc., etc., etc. So if a story dies, um, that doesn't mean that it goes totally away, but it means that, well, we need to change, we need to retell, we need to, well, create a new story which is more in balance. So when I meet people who say things I totally don't agree to, I always start, well, digging in their stories, asking questions, open and curious, to discover what I have overlooked. Because otherwise, I would have seen it earlier, and I kind of would agree on, well, their perspective, their
Mm-hmm.
story, and that openness and that curiousness is, well, necessary to bring people together to balance our world stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I hope this is kind of answer to your
Yeah, no,
question.
it makes
But
sense.
it's a continuing process.
Yeah,
It will never die,
yeah.
and it will stand up, well, in a different way, in a different form. There will be peace.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope without having war.
Mm-hmm.
But so there will be peace, but there need to be peace in Europe, if we go to Europe, in
Mm-hmm.
a different way than we have now, because it's there is no balance, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like something about integration. Like something is not integrated. Some part was not seen, and that was like breaking the whole house, kind of with that energy.
Yeah, exactly,
Interesting. Yeah.
exactly. It's when you suppress a story,
Mm-hmm.
um, conscious or subconsciously, you press it underwater. It's like a ball you press underwater, and at a certain point it will
Mm-hmm.
come up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I see now happening in a lot of countries in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and well, what I do hope is that we can rebalance the stories we share, make people aware of, okay, we've been overlooking something, or okay, I'm too much on the shadow side. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
a bit more in less polarized way, polarized view, less accusing someone else, well, etc., etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in Europe it seems this story of peace somehow was at the price of other people well-being, which then led to a lot of migration, let's say, from other countries that were not well off, and then now it's like pointing fingers at them, that
Exactly.
they're responsible for something which was not sustainable, like the house was not built on good ground, let's say.
No,
But what do you think?
non-equal. Yeah,
Yeah, you are
equality. Yeah.
you already mentioned that it's about curiosity and like asking questions. What do you think are the skills needed for people to adopt more of this worldview about storytelling? Or yeah, well, I'm always an educator. I'm thinking,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
what are the
Well,
prairie?
the the um, the entrepreneur in me, of course, says directly come to my Fantastic Friday sessions every last Friday of the month.
We'll, we'll put it in the link in the
Exactly.
underneath.
But the more well, the teacher in me, the educator in me is, um, the moment people become aware of what story they are living,
Mm-hmm,
and the second step of that is that they become aware that they have the power within themselves, because it's the most ancient
mm-hmm,
profession there is in the world, that they have the power in themselves to change the
mm-hmm,
story they are living. Then it starts. Well, it
mm-hmm.
starts. It
Yeah.
starts.
So
And that
awareness.
can be at any level. That can be privately, when you're in a bad relationship, for example.
Mm-hmm,
But it can also be, well, in a more public sense, politically, etc., etc., to, well, start telling a different story if you see that, well, the story you tell doesn't have the result you want.
mm-hmm,
And at the same time, this sounds very simple. I always warn for that. It sounds very simple, and in a sense, it is simple. But on the other hand, it's very difficult, because what you also see, in the world around us, and maybe that's the start of that popping up the worry, and popping and going down of the peaceful, the peace stories, is that, um, at least in the Western world, we're very good at making up stories,
mm-hmm,
and stories creating with your head. And the
mm-hmm,
stories I'm talking about, the stories you live, are the stories in your whole body. So you need to change the story with your whole body
mm-hmm,
to be authentic, to be, well, etc., etc., and to really change something.
mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm,
we sense perfectly well, again, because it's in our DNA. Every human being understands perfectly well a story that is made up, that is, that commercial marketing, blah blah blah, the bad marketing, the bad commercials, etc., etc.
mm-hmm.
We recognize that immediately. And
Mm-hmm.
the change I'm talking about, and that's the hard part, is to change, well,
Mm-hmm.
the whole story you're living.
Yeah,
But the moment people are aware of that, that's the first step. And then from there, you can, bit by bit.
but I think that's so hard, especially when you said the story of our whole body, because maybe you're thinking, for example, I'm a good person, I'm helping, right? That's a story.
Hmm,
But
hmm.
then if your actions are leading, and this is maybe lack of information, or the food that you're buying, or the clothes that you're buying, are, in a way, feeding a system which keeps people in modern slavery, then
Exactly.
so we sometimes we lack information to know, or we're not
Yeah.
curious perhaps to fully
Exactly.
inform our story with
Yeah.
what is it, but from top to, for as long as possible, the full value chain, as you say. Because I think also here in Brussels, so many organizations and politicians, whatever, live in a good story, a bit
Okay.
like in constellations, in good conscious. They're thinking, "Oh, I'm doing so good," da, da, da. But maybe lacking integrity on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I,
Lacking curiosity.
yeah.
Curiosity. I always mention it, of name it as being curious, or a bit more negative said, the lack of doubting your own story, because it starts there.
Mm-hmm.
That the moment you think, okay, I'm doing very good, I'm helping this person, for example,
Mm-hmm.
um, that there you always need to question yourself: is my help exactly what that other person needs, or
Mm-hmm.
does he or she need something else? So there's the doubting and the
Mm-hmm.
open up curiosity. Okay, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Or like what you mentioned with the clothes, start doubting yourself. Okay, where does these clothes come from? Are
Mm-hmm.
these that company says that they're good and sustainable, but is that really true? So
Mm-hmm.
there again is the doubting in
Mm-hmm.
combination with the curiosity. Start asking questions. Question yourself, question the world, question,
Mm-hmm.
but out of curiosity and not out of distrust or out of etc etc. So there's again that it's tiny. Um, I don't know the English word. That there's always that balance between the negative
Mm-hmm.
doubting and distrust, or the positive doubting and the curiosity that comes from there. So it's against that
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah, it's kind of like, are you open-minded to really hear, even if, or are you trying to confirm a story again that
Exactly,
you have
exactly. Yeah,
created in your head?
yeah,
But
exactly.
I think this about integrity is yeah, I was listening to a story today by someone that was telling me how in the visible, like in the out there, about their company, their organization, everything looks so clean and pretty, and but then the people that work on the background are living in horrible conditions. And how can we be buying this? But yeah, if we're not curious to ask the right questions, then we'll never find out.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope.
Curious, to ask the right question. That's one part. The other part is also uh, listening. I think certainly in the Western world we have also stopped listening, in the sense that, well, what they in the theory you called the downloading. A lot
Mhm,
of people download. You hear what you, well, expect to hear that is
mhm,
being said, but the generative listening, that the deep level listening,
mhm.
it would be great if that was taught at schools in education, etc., etc. Because then,
Yeah,
well, people start listening in a different way, and from there start asking different questions, and
yeah.
well,
And
etc.,
then it's
etc.
listening with your whole body. We did that exercise in the last Art of Hosting here in Belgium with the four levels of listening, and how the generative listening actually had a movement like this. Like there's a
Exactly.
movement of leaning in to the
Yeah.
story of the other
Yeah.
person. And
Exactly.
and I think that's why I so much like this whole world of the art of hosting conversations that matter. Because in conversations, then we can be exchanging, even though that can be a bit, again, not to make the mistake of thinking only in the head. It's like
Hmm.
conversations of full body
Yeah.
experience,
Exactly.
not
Exactly. Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also with the head.
Mhm.
The head shouldn't be excluded because there's
No,
a lot of information in there, but add the body to it, and we're there.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and not either or.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's again, it sounds simple, but it's hard work,
Mm.
and people are lazy often. So
Yeah, the
of
brain.
mankind is like, me too, so
Yeah,
that's
I mean, the brain wants to save energy, right? The brain wants to do
exactly,
things how the easiest way, whatever the neural pathways are, never
exactly,
changing.
yeah.
But since you're working in that field, let's say for some time, do you feel more people joining the movement? Is it easier to talk to companies in this language? How is that changing?
Yeah, that's I'm really happy with that, and it's
Hmm.
not only because of me. There are a lot of more people working in this field. But when I started a long time ago, I very often still had to explain that stories weren't only bedtime stories for children.
Hmm.
So that was when I started. But now, when I say, "Oh, I do the story work, or even the archetypal work,"
Hmm.
often people do like, "What are archetypes?" Which I understand, but they're opening up for working with our archetypes, and they're opening up for the deep
Hmm.
level, the deep work storytelling. And I'm really happy with that, because that gives us a chance to, well, to make people more aware again of what the stories they're living,
Hmm.
as a person, but also as a team, as an organization, and to make the switch from the more short-term individual masculine goals.
Hmm.
Masculine and feminine has nothing to do with being a man or being a woman. It's a part of, within us, the masculine goals, which have been promoted for a very long time, again in the Western world. Only with the masculine goals you were successful, when you had growth and profit, etc., etc., etc.
Hmm.
And we've kind of overlooked the feminine goals, which are more based and focused on the community.
Hmm.
And that's a change that I see happening now, that again there is coming a balance between the masculine goals and the feminine goals,
Hmm.
and in organizations. So you see that in not only the profit they want to achieve, because that's perfect,
Hmm.
that's what their company's for, but also that they're looking for, okay, and how can we do more sustainable things, or more things for society, without looking at the profit, or maybe that decreases our profit a bit, but that's also important, and that's also how we found ourselves successful. Um, so that all comes along with, okay, what story are you living, and what story do you want to live with this company?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think my personal view is that for now we can still choose, or at least we think we can choose, but sooner or later we will have to make a transition that might be more costly and more painful
yeah,
for everyone. While if we
yeah,
do it now voluntarily, there is still movement to respond rather than react when, things are this close to
right in the face, exactly, yeah.
yeah, then you're a lot less responsive and you have a lot less movement and choice. So I'm really hopeful that more people engage with this type of work and have this kind of understanding that we can deconstruct reality, and how often it's an imagination problem actually we are having. Not that other ways are not possible. Today I was reading that somewhere in Copenhagen they're experimenting with using mycelium for pavement. It's like crazy, that there are so many other possibilities, but sometimes it's just about being curious again and asking
Exactly,
ourselves, oh, is there another way to do things in the world?
exactly. And
Uh,
that's again that opening up for, and from the doubting, there's not nothing possible. Yeah, there are other things possible, and let's open up for it, and well, dive into it,
Yeah,
and
being curious and
being
leaning
curious.
lean
Yeah,
into the unknown actually.
yeah.
But this is also a feminine quality,
Hmm.
because darkness, unknown, all of this, the masculine energy wants to predict, wants to analyze, to
Wants to
dissect.
control.
Yes.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
on the other hand, too, to go back to that warrior, another feminine um, characteristic is the destructive, ruining energy of the feminine, the
Mm,
the power of birth and death. That's
Mm.
These are also feminine
Mhm.
energies, feminine characteristics, and
Mhm.
well,
Maybe yeah, I really believe that we are experiencing this balanced world that is coming to balance, and that we'll have to increase the volume on certain characteristics, as you were saying, to see the pendulum going swinging back to the middle, hopefully.
exactly, yeah.
Really nice. It was a pleasure to talk to you, but I have a
Okay.
final question before we move on. So you already mentioned the Fantastic Fridays. I'll put a link to your next one. It's about the mountain, I believe, the archetype.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
but in
A
terms of
beautiful archetype which
Mhm.
have the masculine and feminine energy within itself. So that's why
Mhm.
I like the mountain as well. The end of the year, it's
Uh,
about well going to the top and the goals and the plans, the masculine energy, but it's also about intuition and our treasures that are inside us as a mountain, treasures, diamonds that are often created with under a lot of pressure. So, well, that's why I've chosen the mountain this time.
I like
But
it.
look at my agenda, and they see all kind of well
Yeah, yeah. I also
Fantastic Friday sessions for the upcoming months.
need also that in the mountain you have to go up, but you also have to go down. Like
Exactly.
it's very as you interesting that you're saying this. It's a balanced archetype. Ah, I just wanted to ask you, my final question is what, in terms of resources, because now, let's say many people are listening to this, what do you need or what would you like if you could wish for something that will support you and other entrepreneurs and I would say healers, storytellers, that quote that more and more are needed in the world. What do you think? What kind of support are you looking for or something like this? If you could wish for anything.
Um, if I could wish for anything, I would say, well, is if all the listeners to this podcast start well listening to someone else's stories, the deep listening we've been talking about, then well the world starts changing already. I always say, be the snowflake of the, in this case, positive avalanche yourself, and from there the world will change and become a better place.
I love that story with the snowflake. I know it. That someone asked the snowflake how much a snowflake weighs, and then, oh, almost nothing. But then when you have the millionth snowflake, and then it becomes an avalanche. Oh, that's
Exactly. So
very
let's
nice.
all be that positive snowflake to start, well, the avalanche to create a better, the world as a better place.
Oh, thank you. I think that's a beautiful ending and a positive note.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.